Hello and welcome to Bold Women Lawyers Spotlight Interview. As as always, we have a terrific guest this week, and I'm very excited to have Emily. Emily, is it LaRuche? I even forgot to ask
You
you that.
nailed it.
Yeah,
LaRuche.
LaRuche. That's what I thought. With Back Office Betties here with us today. And I'm really excited to get into talking to her about the services she provides. But before that, even how she got into this area. But let me tell you a little bit about Betty before about Betty. See, I'm so stuck on your name on the name of your company. About Emily before we get started. So she is the founder of Back Office Betties, which is a boutique receptionist and intake company, and we're going to talk about that a lot, exclusively serving small law firms. She has an insatiable thirst for learning, and she is happiest coaching and collaborating with the entrepreneurial community. She has been featured in Entrepreneur, Associated Press, BBC News, and she serves on the board of Austin's Entrepreneurs Organization and as an educator for inmates to entrepreneurs. So that's quite a resume, Emily, and welcome. I'm really happy to have you here.
Thank you. It's a pleasure.
So let's just jump right into it. You and I have talked, and as I was saying, I was a partner in a small law firm for a long time, and then had my own solo firm for 16 years. And I think one of the scariest things for me and for a lot of the lawyers that I work with is the question of, or the idea of, bringing somebody else on. You may feel overwhelmed, you need help, but frequently you feel reluctant to bring on a W 2 employee. And I think part of that is related not just to, oh, will I have enough to keep them busy on a long-term basis, but also the idea that when you're in a small firm or a solo firm, you have a direct one-on-one with the people that you're bringing on. It's not like in a big firm that if business slows down, maybe you can move somebody to a different department. You can't. It's your firm, it's your small firm. And I know I used to just feel the weight of, I am responsible for making sure that my employees, get paid and get their benefits and all of that. And so I was really happy when I learned while I was in practice that there were alternatives. And that's certainly what Back Office Betties is. So let's talk about it. Tell us about your path? How did you come to create Back Office Betties? What led you to down that road, and why small law firms?
That's a good question, Sharon. I always knew I wanted to be an entrepreneur. I didn't know what, though. I didn't really know if I had any special skill. It's not like I went to lawyering school or engineering school and I had this
Mm.
thing I could do. So I was working for a major bank, not super happy there. And one day I had a quick break and I was trying to line up all these home services and things for my house. Nobody was answering. And I thought, I could do that for these local mom and pops. I can really help them out. I mean, I can answer a phone like nobody's business. Anyone could do that. So I kind of thought, ding, that's my thing. You don't have to be a rocket scientist to answer the phone. What you kind of have to be a rocket scientist to run a business, if you ask me. But that was something I'd learn much later. So
So it just started with that idea, like, this is something else I can do. Okay.
yeah,
Tell
and
us
my
how it
whole
progressed.
dream was like I was thinking these little mom and pops that are out there doing AC and landscaping. I really thought that I'd be like the hometown hero to them, booking all kinds of jobs. And we did a lot more than the regular answering service. We were dispatching, we were routing, we were doing for attorneys, chiropractors, and all these industries. We were selling a Rotovac steam clean system one moment, and then booking a consult for a lawyer the next. And eventually it got to be where we had enough clients that we said, wow, we can't maintain this level of knowledge for all of these industries.
Mm.
So I sat down with my team and I was like, guys, let's create this, three-piece litmus test. Who can we serve the best? What is best for the client? Who loves us? Who are we doing providing the most value to? What's best for the company to scale it? Who's paying the bills on time? Who really values what we're doing? And so is what's best for the team? what's best for the client and what's best for the company. And I asked my team, who do you guys like serving the most? Look at your favorite clients. And I thought for sure it's these little mom and pops. My team, hands down, was like law firm, law firm, law firm. And it was crazy.
Wow.
I had worked for
Wow.
law firms in the past. I'd worked in the legal real estate area for quite a few years. I happen to have a couple paralegals, a criminal justice graduate on my team, so it was kind of a natural fit.
Wow.
It was unplanned, it just happened to be that they were just like, this is something we're passionate about. And my passion is entrepreneurs and helping the small firms. We're supporting entrepreneurs, so it
Mhm.
fits in line with what I get excited about. And so we went one day and we said, this is it, we're niching. And I remember that first phone call I took from someone in the medical field where I had to say, we really could have used the business. And I had to say, I'm sorry, we only serve lawyers. It was so painful. And I'll never forget the call.
But let me stop you there, because what I wanted to say was I hope that everybody listening wrote down everything you said about the process you went through and the questions you asked in order to decide where's the niche. How are we going to narrow this focus? Because that's exactly what I teach my clients. These are the things that you have to decide for yourself. And you're right. It's really hard to say no, because when you need business, but you know that you can't serve that area well. And so, yeah, you kind of have to say no once you've
Absolutely.
once you've narrowed it down. But it was so smart, because you were right when you say, we can't be knowledgeable enough to service all of these industries. So good for you. So there you go. Now you're like, okay, we're lawyer only.
Yep.
Take
Well,
us
and
from
I have an
take us
aside
from
on
there.
that too. I have a friend going through a really difficult divorce right now,
Oh,
and he's being, his name's being put through the ringer, and things are very contentious. And so he wants rights to his children. He's really passionate about being involved with his kids, and so he's looking for a father's rights attorney. So we're looking together and we're going down the list. Every firm, it's like, the Smith firm, the, Johnson firm. It doesn't tell us who they serve. And so there's one that says father rights advocate, something to that effect. And it's like
wow.
when you niche, you exclude, you magnetically repel everyone who's not for you, and you magnetically attract who's for you. And so 100 times out of 100, that's going to be the number one firm people are going to call who are looking for a father's right advocate. So
Yeah.
something to think about.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, yeah, it's funny because there's a prior interview I did, I don't know, a couple months ago, that I know we repost, with Katie Wilcox, who is a divorce lawyer in Virginia, uh, representing women only. And for the very same reasons.
Mhm.
It's not like she doesn't like men. It has nothing to do with that. It's all about the business and being able to design the business around what are the needs of female clients
Yeah.
who
And
need a
who do you want
divorce,
to serve?
and who do you
What
want to
sparks
serve.
joy?
Exactly, exactly. So you, unlike most people, like, in the world, I think, but certainly in America, are sparked as by lawyers. Lawyers spark joy for you, which is great, because we don't hear that very much as lawyers.
Oh, I hear people all the time. They're like, "Excuse me, lawyers, sharks," and I say, "Well, you know what? It's funny. Our branding, our tone, the cheeky vibe that we have, we're attracting a specific kind of lawyer. We are a little bit of a boutique firm, so we tend to attract boutique firms who have a heart for what they're doing.
Mm.
We're not attracting a bunch of ambulance chasing sharks. And so working with the lawyers we work with, we have some that I've had my team members say, like, I would go to battle. I would die for this lawyer. That's how
Wow.
much I love them. We have some fantastic lawyers that are doing great work in their communities, and we are proud to support them.
So let's talk a little bit about the whole decision when I'm the lawyer. I've got a lot going on. My business is coming in. I'm really happy about that. And maybe my team is great, but we're overwhelmed. And I figured out, what? There are tasks that I need to take off of my team or take off of myself, but I'm looking for someone who is not an employee. I want to find a vendor, find a 1099 contractor to do certain tasks. So tell us about the kind of services that your company provides.
Absolutely. And I love the niche market that's available for specific services. And just as an example, we use Cathedral Capital to do CFO services. That's all they do. So they just do this tiny little thing for us, but it's one specialty thing, and they do it for lawyers. So we know that they work with our target demographic, so they understand our business. And so I love that you can do fractional lawyers these days. You can for your firm, you can do a fractional paralegal, a fractional for
Mhm.
assistant, legal assistant, and so we are out doing legal assistant and virtual receptionist services fractionally. So the beauty of this is you're only paying for the work that these fractional people are doing, and so where we're a little bit different is we're actually going to have someone staffed and sitting there. We'll have a small team 60 hours a week, ready to go Monday through Friday, but you're only paying for the actual time they're picking up a call and speaking to someone for your firm. So some other fractional ones are you're paying for the time they're working, but they're not going to be available to you 60 hours a week. So that's where we're a little bit different.
Right, right. And you're available, are you available like nationwide, or is it regionally limited?
We're nationwide. We're 5 to 5, 5 a.m. to 5 p.m. Eastern time. We're always looking at kind of expanding things, but those hours are working really well for the firms that we work with. And we
Mhm.
take that place of the front desk receptionist. We've got a small team, so they really get to know the accounts they're working on, and we keep the team small. We love feedback from the attorneys. The most successful clients are treating us like an employee, and they're providing those performance review feedbacks of, hey, let's
Mhm.
go through that intake script once every 6 months and make sure it's working. Let's make sure you're triaging things the way I want. Um, and we implement the training and really make sure that we're doing exactly what the firm is requiring.
So let's talk about that intake script, because when you and I had our very first conversation, you said to me, most lawyers don't have an intake script. And it's, of course, in my view, a huge mistake. But talk about how you do that. How do you what is the intake script? How do you develop it with your clients? Tell us a little more about that.
Perfect. I'm going to use family law for an example because
Sure.
oftentimes the consults are paid. And so if we've got an attorney who they say, all right, for a family law case, just book them $250 for an hour or 40, half an hour, whatever the case may be, consult. That's the extent of the information provided. Well, most people don't want to part with their wallets without being given some value. So we have a little script builder. It's like a do it yourself, fill in the blanks to help build an intake and to sell that value of it may just be we're going to sit down and listen to you and hear the facts of your case, and we're going to give you what we think the next step should be. So you're going to walk out here with a plan, take it or not. That's fine, but you're going to leave with some value. It's not just come in here, pay me $250, decide you hate me, and you leave with nothing. And I went through that experience with my brother trying to help him find a lawyer. They would answer law firm, the bedside manner of the person answering, I was calling around, it was awful, and so I was like, "I'm not giving you 300 bucks because you don't even answer the phone nicely. I don't
Yeah.
know if I wanna work with you, and I'm not gonna pay for 3, 4 different consults just to find the person I like."
Right.
So, like, let's start building the value and sell them on what you're gonna get for the firm. Because if it's just come in and give me your money, I'm a lot of people are gonna pass.
And it's important. Again, this is what I teach with my clients. Before somebody's going to purchase your services, and there's professional services, but they're paying good money for it. And even on contingent fee cases, they win. They're paying you good money for your services. They have to know you and like you and trust you, and that begins with their first contact with the office.
Yep.
And yeah, when you said, law offices, it just makes me chuckle because I've had that experience. It is so unfriendly. Or the other thing that I hear is Smith and Jones, and then there's this dead silence. And if I'm like, this is the first time I've ever called a law firm, like, what am I supposed to do now?
Right.
I don't even know what to say. And I think I'll hang up and call somebody else. So tell me how would somebody go about building the script? I mean, how would they work with you to do that?
So we have a simple script builder that we provide. We can provide it as a lead magnet. I can send it out to anyone who's interested. Emily at backofficebetties.com. Shoot me an email. I will happily send it off. It's a PDF. Fill in the blanks. It's really pretty. Um, but if you don't want to take that step and you're just listening and
Yes.
you're like, what do I do? Think of the value that you bring. And a good example is a criminal attorney that they say, Mr. Johnson, we used to work for the DA for 15 years. He knows process inside and out, and he's now representing on the criminal side. He is an expert at what he does. How can we build the value? How can we sell you? What's your experience? What can we start telling people so that they know that they're in the right hands?
Mhm.
And and then when we're talking about an intake specifically, we need to let them know what they're walking away with. And it might just be a case evaluation. That's fine.
Right.
Other estate planning attorneys will actually give a full written kind of a estate plan to them, and then they can, DIY it if they want to go crazy. I wouldn't do it, or hire
No.
the attorney, but they walk out with a full plan and a full, thorough financial review,
Mhm.
and a great
Mhm.
recommendation for what to do. So just figure out what can I do to build value, and there's always something, even when you're brand new. Maybe it's just I only work with women. That's all I do is I help
Right.
take care of women who are going through a divorce.
Mhm. Exactly, exactly. Okay. So I know, that's intake, but I know there's other, and I obviously you do the reception services.
Yes.
But I know there's some other things that you mentioned, triaging. Now tell us what's that all about?
Absolutely. So you've got to have a triage. What happens when a judge's chambers calls? What happens when it's the clerk of the court? What happens when it's your wife calling or your husband calling, or the
Mhm.
kids? What do you do when it's a solicitor? So we need to know what to do in different circumstances. A personal injury attorney might have some things for what to do when an adjuster calls. Does that go to someone
Mhm.
specific? Should we get a list of their fax and claim number and the information needed and get that to a specific person? So, how do we limit the interruptions to your day? And we do that through a triage, and we figure out maybe there's some times where we're going to take messages. If it's an existing client, maybe we're going to set up a return call on your calendar instead of trying to interrupt you. So, how do we
Mhm.
reduce those interruptions, and what works best for your firm?
Oh, that's great because that sounds like it's very customized depending on the need for of the particular firm,
Yeah, and
right?
it should be. I
Yeah,
mean, based on your size, and it drives me nuts where most answering services are like, just give me your stuff, forward your calls, and blah blah blah. It's just off and
right.
running. It's Well, what works for your firm? Because every single firm should be different. Every triage is
Mhm.
not the same.
Mhm. Exactly. No, exactly, and, I know that I used to set aside specific time to return phone calls,
I think that's
for that very
brilliant.
reason. Yeah, because when you're working and you're focused on, Mary Smith's case, or contract or whatever you're doing for Mary Smith, I don't want to be interrupted to take a phone call from John Doe who has a totally different problem. I want to be able to stay focused. And then it puts predictability into your day. This is the time that I'm returning calls. And you can tell clients, please call, leave the message. These are the hours that I return calls.
Yep.
Sort of like doctors do. I mean, I used to always hear, oh, yeah, well, she returns calls between 1 and 2. Okay, fine.
Yeah, I
That's
think
fine.
that's fantastic.
Mhm,
And
mhm,
we can put them on the calendar. We can just let people know. We can take a message, just let them know this is probably the time frame. Another great one is let's tell people when calls will be returned every time, because the number one complaint is my attorney doesn't call me back. Let's let them know. Is it going to
absolutely.
be a day, 2 days? Let's just
Right.
let them know every time.
Amen. Amen. Because that is absolutely right. And clients understand that. And I would explain it that way. I would say, listen, you will get a response within a business day from me or someone on the staff. Here's why we're not going to call you back right away or respond to your email right away because we are focused on, working on cases. If we're working on your case, you don't want us distracted by someone else and vice versa. They totally understood that. I never had a client who balked at that because once you explain it to them and then you prove it, because they leave a message, and
Mhm.
yes, they do get a response within a business day. Sometimes, it might be within an hour, sometimes it might be, the next day, but it is within one business day. So
Absolutely, and use
once you prove
support
it.
staff
Mhm.
too, like, if you can't
Oh,
get
yeah.
back to them, we've had some where it's like, "Hey, we're still waiting on the Social Security Administration to get back to us. It's going to take a while." Perfect, no problem. Let your support staff know, call them back, give them a case update. Easy peasy. I say let your support staff know what the expectations are so that we can always set
Mhm.
expectations with clients, and they
Mhm.
will not complain when you set the expectation up front.
No, exactly, exactly. So you have, you said fractional receptionist and legal assistant type services. Now, have we covered all of the services, or are there other things that you're able to do for small law firms?
That is it for now. We are actually branching out into doing some legal assisting. And so a little bit of case management gets involved there, some
Mhm,
collections type work,
mhm,
just
mhm.
some different one off things that the attorneys need support on. We're rolling that out for some of our internal clients and eventually hope to do that for everyone.
Well, listen, especially I will tell you on the collections end, because I know I talk to a lot of people that's a real difficulty for them, because they send the bill, maybe they follow up once, then they get busy with something else, and they get busy with something else, and they look, and oh, it's 2 months down the road and you still haven't paid the bill. Yeah. So that's something that, if handled properly, can be a huge help for
Absolutely.
lawyers. And then but you did mention scheduling, right?
Yes,
You
we
do.
definitely do that.
Okay, so how do you do that? I mean, do you use this particular scheduling app, or if somebody was working with you, what would they need to do
My
to,
personal favorite is Acuity. It integrates with Outlook and also with Google Calendar, but we work with a lot of different things. We work with MyCase, Clio, um, some of the big ones. Anything that has a scheduling link, we work
Mhm,
with. And then
mhm,
something I think a lot of attorneys don't know is most of the CRMs that they're using have what's called a web form, which means that your intake form, you don't have to log in to create an intake, which is great for services like us because we're not going to be logged into your system all day. You can use that link to provide to us where we're filling out all of your web form information that you would normally fill out on a brand new client. And we can get that by just hitting submit straight into your system. So that's a really cool tool that I don't think enough people take advantage of.
that's a great tool, and when it goes into the system, I'm not a tech person, so I'm not sure I'm asking this the right way, but when it goes into the system, does it create, like, a new matter,
Yep, it
or
can create a new
wow.
lead or a new
Mhm,
matter.
new
You
matter,
set up the
okay.
workflow. Yeah.
Mhm,
So we do have an integration with Clio where within our system, when we send a message in our system, it goes straight into Clio as a new lead.
mhm,
But
mhm.
other systems, if they have that web form link, and most CRMs do, you can use that
Yeah.
web form link, and it might be a nice shortcut for your intake team just to use that instead of logging in and create new and this, that,
Oh,
and the other.
yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely. No, absolutely. That's anything that's a time saver, on repetitive forms
Absolutely.
is a winner in my book. So, I love the name Back Office Betties, okay? And I told you I was gonna ask you this. Where did that name come from?
Okay, this is really silly and it's so lewd, but when I was getting started, I'm just a small town girl sitting at home in Scottsdale watching TV and dreaming that one day I'm going to own a business, some kind of secretarial thing. And I'm watching, this is so embarrassing, Keeping Up with the Kardashians.
Oh, yeah, okay.
And I'm just sitting there. I've got my notebook out. I'm brainstorming ideas. It was 2013. I'll never forget it. And I said, well, I don't have a lot of money to go big and get investors and do all kinds of crazy tech stuff. So I have to have a name that stands out. I have to have branding that stands out. I can't just be, the Scottsdale answering service. Um,
Right, right.
and just then, Scott is chasing Courtney around and she's yelling at him, I'm no backdoor Betty. This is so embarrassing. And I was like, "Back Office Betties, there it is. I've got
There
my
it
name."
is.
And we've been made fun of ever since, but everyone who makes fun of the name and I say, "But you didn't forget it, did you?"
Exactly, but exactly. That's the point,
That's
like,
branding, right?
That's branding. You're not going to forget it. Absolutely. Well, I love it. I don't think that was lewd. I just think that was reality. And listen, as much as I'm like not a Kardashian person, it's great that as you were watching, you were able to sit there and brainstorm and come up with a name for your business. So I love that. That's where
So
the
there
name
is
came
some value out of those Kardashians
from.
after all.
Exactly, exactly. Oh, that's great. Um, all right. Well, listen, Emily, this has been fabulous. I love what you do, and that you are completely focused on small law firms because the needs are great, but you provide wonderful service. So I love what you do. And tell me if somebody is listening, needs to get in touch with you. They I put up your email before, and now I put up the website backofficebetties.com. So what would be their first step?
Visit backofficebetties.com. We do have a chat on there. We have a contact us. You can always give us a call, um, or shoot me an email. It's just Emily at backofficebetties.com. Easy peasy.
Oh, that's easy. And one thing before we go, there is one thing because you've worked with small law firms now for a while because it's been almost 10 years, right?
Yes. Mhm.
Um, so, what do you think is the biggest mistake that small law firms make when they're trying to, run the firm, practice law? What do you think the area, or what's the weakest area where they could use some help?
I would probably say trying to be everything to everyone. And what we talked
Mm,
about in the beginning is really figuring out. And I worked with a coach to kind of go through our process. And so I know that's what you do, and you can help really narrow that in. But it is worth every second of time invested in really figuring out who you want to serve. Because, like I said, you want to magnetically repel everyone who's not for you and attract those who are.
exactly, exactly. And sometimes people are afraid and say, "Oh, but I'll lose business." But the point is that, for example, I had this happen very recently. I serve my target audience is women lawyers and solo and small firms. But I was contacted by a legal nurse consultant, and she said, "Look, I don't know if you work with somebody like me, but this is how I found out about you, and this is what I'm interested in." And we talked, and I realized that, oh yeah, there's good synergy here, and I absolutely can help you with the issues that you have. And so I took her on as a client because just because I'm focused on women in solo and small firms, that doesn't mean that there won't be circumstances where, a man calls me who has a solo firm or a small firm. And as long as we're a good fit business wise, um, absolutely, I can decide to take that on, just like you
Yeah,
could if somebody in a bigger law firm called you, as long as it was a good fit for the services that you provide and you like them. Yeah,
absolutely. And we've done that, and we've had, doc prep companies that we answer phones for, and
yeah,
things of that nature. And I've been in the entrepreneurs organization for about 6 years. Every time I've watched a business say, "This is it, I'm doing it, I'm niching, I'm pulling the trigger," never, 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 never has the business shrunk. Has it declined?
right.
Have they regretted the decision? Never. And they told me that would be my experience. I was terrified, and I did it, and it's been the best decision.
And it worked, didn't it? Yeah.
It did.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, listen, Emily, thank you so much for coming. I appreciate you taking the time to talk to us. Your website's up on the screen, so people can get in touch with you. Just go to your website, and they can take it from there. Right?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much. It's been a blast.